So this is an image of Mercury just day by day. You're just going across the sun. Mercury, it's not day by day. This is across hours, probably an hour at a time, going across the face of the sun. Yeah, it's probably, can it be hours, 12 hours, 24? Maybe Mercury, 6 hours. No, it's probably 30-minute intervals, 30 or 40-minute intervals going across the face of the sun here. But you see how tiny it is and you see it moving along. I just want to put a perspective of this Mercury. And one more. So here's another picture of the sun with its powerful fire and its, and right on the bottom right, there's a little arrow pointing where Mercury would be. It's a little dot on the edge here. That's how small it is. But also, as Mercury's going around, that's how close it is to the sun. Okay, it's right in the heat and the flame, almost on the edge of the aura of it. Well, we're all on the edge of, all the planets on the edge of the aura of it, but really being really close. So, okay. Trying to get the mind aligned with the heart. The mind is moving, the sun moves along in progressions, 90 degrees, 90 days, or 90 years. And Mercury's going around the sun, going back and forth, going around it, across those. As the sun goes 90 degrees, Mercury can go up to maybe 120 maybe, but it's just like, it's going to stick. It can't be further than 28 degrees around the sun. So it goes, one way comes the other, it goes like a pendulum around it. So as it moves along, you can't say it's a day for a year. You have to see each day is for a year, but we're having to see how much it moves and where it is and how it goes and start to see how the texture of how it's actually evolved astrologically thinking. And as it goes along, it's going to go through the signs of the zodiac. It's going to go through the pentans. It's going to go through the subpentans. It's going to go through the hexagrams, the lines of the hexagrams, the subhexagrams. It's going to go through all of those things, and each one will have shed some meaning or implication on that development of that mind. So you can take Mercury at any moment and go into this in depth. But then it's going to go through some houses. It's going to go across an angle probably. It's going to make aspects, it's going to conjunct and make aspects to different planets as it's moving along. And this is the mechanical story of what Mercury's making sense of across a lifetime. And at the same time, the opposite side of it is, here's all the attachments, here's all the energy going on, and how much are you listening to the heart inside of this? Are you listening to the heart while you're dealing with this? Mercury is wonderful ability to think about anything, but it doesn't have the best ability to think of everything and keep it aligned with the sun, keep it in perspective with the sun, with your heart. It tends to take on the ego of the sun as if I'm the ego and my thoughts are real and this is it. And that's the sun shining onto Mercury and Mercury being empowered by the sun. So ta-da, this tiny little planet that you can hardly see. You can see someone, you can relate to someone, you know someone years, but you don't always know what they're thinking. Making me smile at you and still thinking you're an idiot. You know, but if you have good thoughts, you feel good. If you have bad thoughts, it makes you sick. It causes difficult things. So our relationship to thinking, and to intelligence, to making sense of things is incredibly important. But really, the first most intelligent, first most noticeable factor of intelligence, the foundation stone of intelligence, is that there's love, or that there's God, or there's something more than the mind. Whoa. Which the mind doesn't, in one way, in its own, doesn't want to accept, but really has to surrender it across the light of the sun. When they're compared, there's no comparison. So getting on a simple level, getting from our mind to the world of sensations, of things going on, to its own thoughts, to its own abstractions, to its own connections, own relevance, getting all those thoughts and being able to get them aligned with our heart so we can have heartfelt thinking. That's part of the puzzle of the evolution of Mercury. How well we do, it's very subjective to try and decide it. So this is part of the puzzle of the Mercury. And in doing this, as Mercury goes along, it's usually across 3 times in a year, Mercury goes retrograde for 22 days. Well, anywhere from 15 to 18, it can be from about 18 to about 25. It can be different amount of days and certainly different amounts of degrees depending how fast it's going. But it can go retrograde, and then it can go direct. And some people will have to deal, most people have to deal with a period when Mercury is going retrograde in their progressed Mercury. Some people may not have, it may never go direct. It may just go direct all their life, and they're thinking a whole different way. So this is part of the puzzle of Mercury going around. Like, back up a minute here. In my chart, Mercury starts over here in Scorpio around 2 o'clock in Scorpio. It goes forward into Sag, retrogrades back up, then goes forward again. And in my life, it'll end up in Capricorn. It's not likely to get into Aquarius. Maybe if I live to late 90s. So that's my path of my Mercury going around. And but that retrograde period, until it goes back, it goes retrograde. We have to understand this. And once you understand it in the progressions, you'll be able to understand it a little bit better in the transits and in the world in a shorter term period. But those 22 days of Mercury retrograde in the world, that's 22 years in your progressed life. That's a big chunk. And it's more than that. So this we have to go into. Okay. So we got to look at Mercury retrograde. So as Mercury goes around, it's just a picture of Mercury moving along, and all of a sudden it slows down, goes retrograde, slows down, then speeds up, going retrograde more, then slows down, goes direct, then goes forward again. That's the simple process. Really, Mercury is just going consistently around the sun. It's not changing its speed. It's not doing anything. It's just going normally in its connection around the sun. It's in its relationship to Earth and the sun, that as the orb of the Earth goes around, whenever Mercury is on the same side as the Earth, it's like two trains, one passing each other, and the slower one looks like it's going backwards. So it's just that retrograde appearance. That's how the stars looks like it's going backwards against the stars, because we're the faster, the Earth is going past, and Mercury is going past faster. It's when the speeds get comparable, it looks like Mercury is going backwards in the sky. Okay, so from Earth, it appears that way. So it's true, for us, it's happening that way, but for the sun, Mercury is really just going around the sun. It's two different ways of seeing the same phenomena. Okay. Could spend the whole day just talking about the puzzles of Mercury and mind thinking versus heart thinking versus being able to listen to love or let your heart think for you and evolve your discrimination and your perceptiveness. Boy, if you don't, you can make all sorts of conclusions, decisions about so many things, and it's not connected to your heart. What will come out of that? It's like a seed of a plant planted in sand with no water or left on a concrete. So the heart really nurtures everything. When it's connected, a magical thing happens sometimes to poets. They see the inner feeling inside of things. So it happens to mystics. They let go of their mind. They end up looking mad or going mad, letting go of things till they get to a level beyond reason. Imagine being radiant, loving for no reason. Oh. So in some ways you can see Mercury is your filter. It's a reasoning that gets, it's a clothes of reasoning that you put on that tend to block your radiant love. But it's so fascinating. We want to wear those clothes of Mercury. We want to see all the things there is to see. It's so informative. But we get lost. We can get lost in it and get out of touch with the real purpose of things. So everyone has this story. So really, the Mercury retrograde, so Mercury turns around, it gets to an exact point when it's retrograde. However, when you have a computer program or an atlas that's making it, all the different computer programs will have a different point, a different moment or different time, often hours apart from when Mercury goes direct to retrograde. Why? Because it slows down, and for that really period of time, a little period of time between before and after the exact retrograde, it's in the same place. It's in the same place. It's not moving. So like, it's hard to get that. You almost have to mathematically ascertain what that exact point is, because it's really a phase. It's really stationary retrograde or stationary direct for a period of time. So, but we tend to look for this exact degree, but different. I mean, this is the trouble with computer programs. When you have computer programs, the expensive ones, they usually have fairly accurate equations, fairly accurate data, and some of the cheaper ones have relatively accurate data, but not as accurate. Some might be accurate to a minute of a degree. Someone might be accurate to a second of a minute of a degree. Someone might be accurate to a degree. And well, to an astronomer, that's more or less there, but well, even with an astronomer, they need to get more accurate than that. But for basic cycles, you think that would be good enough. So a lot of programs are out there, and they think they're giving you the information, but they're not accurate enough to give really precise information. It's like going into surgery with a butter knife instead of a scalpel. So this is the scale of you get what you get. So at some point with astrology, you're going to want to get a program. We suggest WinStar because of the way it does its reports and sets phases and things up. And it's a program you live with. You get to know it. After 25 years, you've used different parts of it, and there's still half of it you're still going to be learning with, or maybe never using, but it's there. So in relation to a program, it's not just about doing a chart. It's being able to do the things you want to do and being able to grow with it so you can explore other things as well. But this idiosyncrasy of Mercury retrograde, it's a fascinating one, because how come this farmer said this time, or how this one said that time? And they're often not exactly in sync with each other. Different equations for the planets, different degrees of accuracy. Okay, so I just put these lines in the point. There is that's the exact point that it would be retrograde. So when we look at this, these lines going up and down, that's showing how we're looking at, say, these degrees. We're looking by the degrees going along, and we see it goes direct. So you can see when that line goes across, it's crossing that exact point, but it's really there's the curve of the stationary direct or the stationary retrograde. It's tied into it. So those mark the degrees, but there's an actual exact point, but really we're measuring more or less in that realm. That's why most people say, is it retrograde or not? But there's a period called stationary retrograde or stationary direct when it's just hovering and still there. That is useful. Now, okay, let's go forward a bit more. Okay, so here we go. When Mercury goes forward, it's going forward. Oh, gee, Mercury's going retrograde. Oh, gee, it's stopping. Like Mercury goes forward, it's forward, because then it slows down, and then stations, and then starts going retrograde. It starts going backwards, back before, back over, back over, back over. What's it going back over? Back over the same degrees Mercury has been in for the previous 20 days, or previous 15 to 20 days. So the Mercury cycle doesn't, the Mercury retrograde doesn't start at the retrograde. It starts at this point earlier before it, but how you find this out, it gets to a point where it goes back to retrograde. It's going back, slows down, and so stationary direct. The stationary direct degree, that point, if you take that degree when Mercury was going direct beforehand, that's the starting point. That's the starting point of the Mercury retrograde phase, so you get the 3 rounds of it. So whatever you start thinking of, or how you're thinking at the Mercury at this stationary direct point, but before it's stationary direct, like the other, before it's even getting retrograde, all this thinking and the way you're thinking, what you're doing, what you're planning, how you're expressing yourself, all of this for this whole period is going forward in a certain way, and then you can't go forward, you can't go further with that anymore. You're taking it as far as you can, and suddenly it backs up and you have to rethink everything. You're rethinking all the things that happened before. And you're going back until you rethought as much as you possibly can, and you have to go back forward. And as you start going forward again, you have to go over these same things, only you've seen it twice before. You're going over it once, and you're going back over to rethinking. Now you're having to go back and get it right this time and think more positively, more clearly. And this loop side, this 3 thinking side, doesn't finish till you get to the completion point, which was the degree the station at Mercury went stationary retrograde at the first point.